Okay, we are live. I am just going to share this real quick. Um, so yeah, while people start coming in. So if you come in or whatever, if you watch this later and you see me on my phone, that's what I'm trying to do. So I'll just give it a minute, see if anybody comes in. Um, okay. Okay. All right. So college football playoffs are done. Or are in, I should say. And it's unfortunate because honestly, I this is kind of how I felt like it was going to go. I disagree with it. I think that Notre Dame should not have been in. I don't think they deserve to get in. I think they are absolute frauds. And yeah, I understand. Well, if you put Texas A&M in, they're going to get blown out by Alabama. Yeah, they are. But you know what? That Notre Dame Alabama game, it's going to be it's going to be as ugly, if not worse, than the Clemson Notre Dame game. And the thing about that Clemson Notre Dame game, the second one, the real one, where Clemson had their starters, um, is Notre Dame really, in the first quarter did all right. They held their own. Um, and when it comes to the rest of the game, um, Clemson just pushed them around. And I felt like Clemson could have really ran up that score a lot more than it was, and they didn't. Um, and I don't know why, but it just seems to me like, yeah, you know what? The first time, but you know what? That Clemson team, you know, DJ is great. Um, I'm not gonna try to say his last name right now. I'm sick, and hopefully this sounds all right. But um, just because you beat them the first time with their backups all in does not mean that when you say you beat Clemson, yeah, okay, you beat Clemson, but you didn't beat that Clemson. You beat a, a different version of that Clemson team. And it's like I said, DJ, great. Yeah. But you know what? He's young. He's not got the experience that Trevor does. And it's just frustrating to me because Notre Dame every single year, it's kind of been like Oklahoma recently. It's like every year they get all this attention and all of this um respect, I guess you could say. And I don't mean respect. They get too much hype, I guess is the right way to say it. They get all this hype and then they always disappoint. And to me that's Notre Dame. And I would much rather put in Texas A&M, even though, they're going to get blown out too. I'd rather put a team in that I feel like has more heart, is going to come to fight. No matter what the end score is, they're going to give their all. I don't think Notre Dame's that team. I don't. And I would much rather have Texas A&M in there at number 4. And Clemson fan number 1, you ready for the sequel? We'll just segue to this. I was really hoping that they would bump us to 4. I was hoping that they would, honestly, if you wanted my most realistic, not crazy possibility, I would want them to put Texas A&M at 3, bump us down to 4. That way we'd have to play Bama. Because here's the thing, you know, um, in my opinion, and I'm sure you'll disagree with this, I think we got screwed in many ways last year. Maybe not in the end result, but there were plays that affected the end result. And that's it. It's just one of those things that gives me PTSD, I guess you could say, because it's like that team was special. That Ohio State team was special, and I believe they would have went toe to toe with LSU better than Clemson did, in my opinion. Um, I could be wrong. That's just a hypothetical, but I feel like putting Ohio State against Clemson this year, it's like, okay, here we go again. Um, this Clemson team is obviously different. Um, I wouldn't say they have the receiving threat that they did last year, but you know, this Ohio State team is very, very different. And my biggest problem as an Ohio State fan is this team is just so young. That this defense is so young and inexperienced. You got guys like Haskell Garrett, who's coming on now, who's just now seeing the field. And it's like, yeah, he's playing great, but he's also not played in these big, big moments. Um, you can go across the board. Tommy Togiai, Sean Wade, he was supposed to be the superstar, another great corner at Ohio State. And he moves from nickel to outside and just completely different player. And when he was out of the game last year against Clemson, you seen what happened. It certainly had a big effect, but he's just not been that guy. And I feel like I I don't know. I feel like Clemson's gonna win. And that's unfortunate because honestly, I feel like Ohio State has a better chance against Alabama than Clemson based on the way they match up. Um, Mac Jones is a great player. I'm not disrespecting him at all. Bama's got incredible players, but to me, they play more of a pro style offense. Um, I'm sorry, I'm sick. And I won't talk long. I just wanted to talk about this quick. But to me, Bama plays more of an offense that would suit um, Ohio State's defense to go against, you know. Um, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence, I feel like he's just gonna have his just sit back there and have a great time. And it's frustrating because it is what it is. You don't get to pick your spot. They pick where you're at, and they pick who you play, and it is what it is. I will say this: I do think Ohio State that showed up yesterday will not be the Ohio State team that shows up against Clemson. And everybody looked at that game and said, "Well, see, look, Ohio State sucks. They don't deserve to get in." I forget who the clown was on Twitter that I had to troll from ESPN, and then he started taking shots at other ESPN hosts because they caught him out. I hope they fire that dude. He's an idiot, number one. And number two, you don't call out your coworkers on Twitter. If you got a problem with them, you talk to them to their face. So I hope that loser gets fired. But anyway, I don't think the Ohio State team that showed up yesterday will be the team that shows up against Clemson because it's not an excuse, but Ohio State did have a lot of starters out. And the most impactful starter was Chris Olave. Justin Fields this season has had two very strange, uncharacteristic, scary, almost horrible games, against Indiana and against Northwestern. Now, it's not the talent. I mean, we have the best receiver in the country from last season, or from recruiting, meaning from last year, and many others out there. And there's no excuse for the way he played, but it's obvious that Chris Olave is really his blanket, to where he's just comfortable. He knows where he's at. They have a great connection. And, when he's not on the field, he just looks lost. He had no clue what he was doing. And I don't know why. I'm a Browns fan. It's the same thing with OBJ and Baker. It's like they have no connection, but it's the opposite with Fields. It's like, with Baker, if OBJ is on the field, he can't hit anybody. And if Chris Olave is not on the field, he can't hit anybody. So it's kind of a similar situation, but flip flop that, and it's just strange. It's unexplainable. But we'll have Olave back, and hopefully that'll be better. Now, Trey Sermon should have always been the number one running back. I was very hyped when we got him from Oklahoma, and he's a great player. I mean, he scored his first touchdown in the shoe. I'm sorry, on a just a little dump off pass from Baker Mayfield. That was the night when he planted the flag and everybody. But it's kind of like, hey, that's kind of a preview. And what he did in that second half of that Big Ten championship to me says, hey, we can trust this guy. We can lean on him a little bit more. And I feel like Ohio State, in preparation for Clemson, is going to try to implement him more, or at least implement him more in the game plan. So I think the offense is going to look different. It'll be better. You won't see the struggles you've seen against Northwestern, just because the comfort side of things, and the realization that you can trust in Trey Sermon. And I think that's a huge, huge deal. Ohio State, their biggest dip off this season, in the limited games we've seen, there's little to no run game. And it seems like they didn't trust anybody. Master Teague really was the number one throughout the regular season. And I love Master Teague. He's a great short yardage back goal line type guy to have. He's just a walking bowling ball with legs, but he's not the guy who you want, on second and 9 to hand the ball off and try to gain yards. He's not that guy. And that's why I thought when we got Trey Sermon, that was going to be the easy plug and place. Hey, we don't have a Dobbins replacement. Here you go. But that's not really what happened up until yesterday. So they're going to have to switch things up as far as the game plan. I thought that was Ryan Day's worst game as far as calling it that I've seen. I didn't understand what he was doing. And it seemed like I heard somebody say this. It did seem like he was trying to get Fields going. And, it's like when you're trying to start the mower and you just keep pulling on that string and nothing's going. Eventually, you got to give up. You can sit there pulling all day. It ain't going to start. And that's what happened with Justin Fields yesterday. They kept pulling on that string until they gave up and started handing the ball off. It is what it is. But the defense, you're going to get Baron Browning back. You're going to get your safeties back. Ohio State was without a ton of players. And, they're not perfect. They're not. And you know what? If you have to, it's late and it's probably too late to do this, but I would consider prepping in this Clemson game to move Sean Wade around. I would, because he's more effective as a nickel corner. And, Clemson knows what he did last year from that position. And you can see from the game film the difference with him playing outside this season. And to be fair, he hasn't had a whole lot of time to really adjust given the situation, but you can't change that. Defensively, for Ohio State prepping for this Clemson game, I don't know. They're gonna have to really get creative because I don't see this ending well. I don't. I look at this Ohio State defense, and we have talented players, but we don't have the experience. And experience is the biggest thing. When you look at these programs who are in the playoffs every year, and then you look at a team who, slips in at 4, or maybe not the usual team that gets in. Um, the experience factor is just much, much bigger. So I don't know. It's right now it's looking like we're gonna have an Alabama Clemson national championship. And I'm not trying to get down on Ohio State, diehard Buckeye fan. Um, this team is not to me, this team is not championship. And it hurts to say because going into this season, it certainly seemed like they were, but I just haven't seen championship. Now, I do agree with this. Kirk Herbstreit said, we haven't seen the Buckeyes' best game yet. And I agree with that. And, they're going to have to put everything on the line against Clemson. I mean, it's the truth because I don't think they can, I think Ohio State, Clemson, best case scenario, it looks like that Florida Bama game last night where, Bama really got that edge over them, always overpowered them, always had the advantage, but Florida kept fighting back, and they got pretty close. I think Ohio State is better than Florida, and they have the better talent. But if if that's the kind of game it's gonna be, then so be it. But I really don't know. I just kind of holding on to hope for that game, but I'm just sick and tired of playing Clemson every year. Every playoff, it's Clemson every single time. And I get it. Texas A&M not great, Notre Dame not great, but honestly, I was hoping to drop to 4. I really was because you know what? Honestly, I thought there was a chance. And I know when I mean chance, I mean like a 2%, 1% chance um, that after watching Florida play Bama that close, I thought maybe, there was an off chance they would consider flipping them. But I didn't expect it. But it is what it is. I mean, it's like I said, you can only play who you're given. Um, but this whole idea, I think, everybody wants to talk about did Ohio State deserve it? You know, I think people think that Ohio State purposely dodged teams and, you know, were handed the a spot in the playoffs, I guess. You go back to that Michigan game, Michigan had 9 people out. And if that's correct, that's what I seen. I'd encourage you to look that up yourself. I could be wrong, but that's what I heard is Michigan had 9 people. I mean, Ohio State played against Michigan State with over 25 plus, I think close to 30 people out. And here's the thing, people. When you see those big numbers, that doesn't mean starters. There's it's a deep roster. You got a ton of players who, you don't know their names yet. You don't know their faces because those are the guys of the future. And when you see, hey, this team's got all these people out, yeah, okay, that's not good. But the question is how many starters? And, you know, I, I think honestly, Michigan, if you can't field a team, with only 9 players out, if you don't have, if you've been that bad at recruiting, I mean, come on. It's horrible. So, I look at situations like that and I say, well, that's a game you could have played, and It is what it is. But the big problem is Kevin Warren and the Big Ten conference as a whole. They just handled this so bad. If they would have stopped complaining and, debating over stupid crap um, at the beginning of this and just started, they would have had flexibility. Hey, we could have played Maryland later. We could have, they just handled it horribly from the start. I mean, when you have to have political figures handling your conference for football because you're doing such a horrible job, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. I mean, I don't know. And obviously you have to have the testing and you have to have all this stuff, but I mean, you look at all these other conferences, other than the Pac-12, which nobody cares about. Um, but you look at what the SEC, the ACC's done. Um, they handled it to where, hey, yeah, Clemson's had people out, they've had to cancel games, but they've still gotten a large amount in. Ohio State had to have the president on the line begging for, what do you call the tests? Kevin Warren saying, "Oh, we don't have this," and you got government roles saying, "No, here you go, you can play." It was just handled horribly from the start, and it's ridiculous. Um, but that's where Ohio State is, and you know what? I really do believe that because of the inexperience and the young guys, I think if they would have had, 3, 4 more games, um, it wouldn't have changed a whole lot, but, for the young guys, I do think it would help a lot, and, too late now. You can only go with what's happened. You can't go and change it. It is what it is. So, but anyway, Alabama's going to take on Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State will take on Clemson in the Sugar Bowl. Rose Bowl being in Jerry World now. I don't know where the Sugar Bowl is. I really don't care. Um, if you ask me for a prediction right now, I'd say it's going to be Alabama Clemson. um, but I think Bama's going to kill Notre Dame, and I think Ohio State has a fighter's chance, but we'll see. I do feel bad for A&M though, but it is what it is. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining. If you joined live, and if you see this later, let me know your thoughts. So, see you in the next video. Bye.